You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene. Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Turn After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Turn After Show.
Ooh, I like that. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Turn, Epiphany. We've lost like most of our crew. They must be crossing the Delaware somewhere.
I've got undercover somewhere.
I'm Kristin Carole, and I have with me though filling in Zach Wilson.
Thank you for having me.
Which we all go by like majors or generals. So I'm gonna let you pick because you were so awesome to fill in.
I'm going to
to
be Capitan Wilson because I'm coming in like the French Navy at the last minute to save the day.
Yes, I like that. All right, El Capitan. Let's get into this. They open up Christmas Eve. Everybody's celebrating. I really liked that. This episode did kind of bring in the whole issue of slavery that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, they've just avoided it completely up until now. I like it felt almost purposeful. Mm-hmm. Like we aren't gonna touch that for a while.
On the war.
Let's let you get to know and like these characters before we point out that they all own slaves.
Yeah. No, and so we see right at the beginning they're all singing a song, Freedom John, I think we can call it. Freedom Let Me Go. And immediately then they go into, we see that's how the slaves are celebrating Christmas Eve. And then Richard is writing something on a paper and you just see the occasional words and one of them is tavern. So you're like, oh, shoot. He's going to do something to Anna because he's very much against her and gives a slip of paper up to Hewlett. And Hewlett's really excited. And he's like, Merry Christmas. Here's a sheet of paper to basically screw Anna and her, whole farming, tavern
everything
business.
About her life
everything.
Is just thrown into the air.
Yeah. And then all the British start singing, Britain will never be slaves. So really over there.
It was eerie with the parallels between the two, like right on the other side of the window.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely. And then they moved on. Then we all of a sudden go to Robert Rogers, who they're all also singing that same song, except theirs is a little bit more rowdier. It was nice to see Robert Rogers again. I love him. And him and Caleb, I just can't decide who I like the most in this show.
The bearded dudes who
are just awesome. Must be the beard, right?
Beards are very good for spying and warfare and just general badassery.
And so we see him again, and they're all singing in there. And then we see John Andres, how he likes to celebrate. If Megan was here, she'd be all excited, like, John Andres. But he's having a little fun with Philomena sitting there. We can always count on him to add the sex to the show.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's just a dude. He's hanging out, running his intelligence operations, and having some fun on the side.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's got like a blonde braided piece of his hair, like
one little like Jedi train off the back of his head.
I wonder if that's like Philomena's, that he just clipped it into his hair.
That'd be really funny. Or he just bleached it. He enjoys bleaching his hair.
Possibly, yeah.
People aren't so different today and in 1776.
He's starting a trend. He's a trendsetter that way. But it was really kind of interesting, all of the parallels to it. And we do see that they're going to grant freedom to the slaves for Anna Strong. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a main point for her story.
We didn't even know. I don't think they'd even shown us that she had slaves. I mean, I guess it was a reasonable...
Yeah, I mean, I think they showed a little bit in the background. I know I had actually looked up the actress who had played Abigail because, we're trying to get guests on the show. So I was trying to write down, and I was like, I can't picture a character named Abigail. And they again, like you said, they've just like kept them completely out to the side.
Yeah, it makes sense, because if we see Anna like bossing around slaves, whether or not she's treating them poorly, we don't like her.
Yeah.
For that, like we see her running her own business in a way. I didn't even really think about it that she has to have somebody to run that big house that she lives in.
Yeah, and it they have she does cauliflower, or I can't remember what it is now, but it was cauliflower.
It was cauliflower.
Okay.
Because Richard was gonna sell off
the cauliflower.
I
got that confused because I remember when that was happening, but then Abraham also had like a similar.
He has cabbage.
Cabbage. So I don't know my fruit. They're vegetables very well. I just called them fruits, so obviously I don't eat very healthy.
I was only able to keep track of it because Germans, and he was like, I raised cabbage, sauerkraut.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, now I'm going to remember.
You for sure remember cabbage because it goes with the sauerkraut. I should have remembered that. Yeah, so we see that, and it kind of definitely sets the tone, and then they go right into Christmas, and Abe's packing. He wants to go to New York.
Yeah, he's just ready to go. Christmas Day is a suspicious day to travel, I think, for a spy. People are usually not moving around. You don't want to be raising suspicion.
No, definitely. And I thought it was actually really interesting that Richard thought it was he wants to leave to not be by his family, and not that it's kind of everything, the information he's getting, and he wants to let people know and get out of town and find more, I think. And, his dad's just sitting there having a few cocktails.
A few. He's
double-fisting.
Yeah, there were multiple glasses of sherry. I almost expected somebody else to come in. I thought that the 2 glasses were going to lead to him getting caught looking for the letter, and then he was going to I just wanted to go to New York.
Yeah.
But I think that the whole thing with Anna is going to be a good cover going forward, because he can sort of use that as that's what I've been covering up this whole time. That's why you think I've been lying to everybody, is because I am about this inconsequential thing like an affair.
Oh.
It's a good cover story because it's a reason that he would be
talking
lying
to
about
her
it.
And why other people saw them together. Mm-hmm. No, that definitely makes sense. We'll get to that a little bit later, but would that be probably your biggest, what was your favorite moment of the night?
Probably the actual attempt at an affair, because that was just like a really raw. Well, the Delaware moment is probably my favorite, because then we're starting to get into the real history, which is we see hints of every now and again, but we get really close to it, which was fun. And we're
on the border of history, because I think too, just since it is the first season, I think there's probably stuff they can't do
budget-wise. Yeah, that makes sense. But
if they get picked up for a second season, I'm hoping there's more battle scenes.
I think it's also just about the show itself. Turn is not a show about the Revolutionary War. No. It's about the spy ring behind the war. Mm-hmm. So the spies don't wade into a battleground.
No,
they help set up the battleground, which is what we see. And that's what was so cool about this episode, was that we see how much Abe's work has really has changed the face of history by him just delivering that one bit of information, by them hiding that letter and getting it across to Washington. Washington got lucky enough to read it in time.
Yeah, with that whole, we saw last week, the whole desk with all the different letters, and it's oh yeah, he's definitely going to pick that random one in the middle.
Yeah, the tiny one.
Yeah, it was literally the smallest one on that desk.
Important things come in small packages. Washington learned this years ago.
It's not the size, but no. So I agree. I was hiding behind my notebook where I'm don't kiss her, and then she pushed him off, and I learned that. I'm yes, Santa, because I didn't want it to be a show about that, and I'd said that a couple of podcasts ago where I was I really hope they don't do anything, because I kind of that he's a man of his honor, and obviously alcohol involved makes a man lose his honor awfully quickly, but. Yes.
Although she wasn't drunk and she was fine with it.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Husband's been in prison for too long, I guess.
It's a cold winter.
Yeah, she just wanted to warm up. Body heat.
That's all. She
just
wanted to stay warm. I think it's very realistic, though, and not in just his circumstances, but that his love for her is sort of what pushed him to rebel in a way. He saw what she wanted to do, and that, again, just the littlest things can change the course of history. Like if she had been a loyal Brit, she might not have had that extra push to go over to the rebel side.
Yeah.
And then that Trenton information never gets to Washington, and who knows what happens.
Yeah, she's almost still, even though she can take care of herself, all of her situations are sort of damsel in distress. So I think he wants to kind of save her and be there for her.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I think that's a small part of it as well.
Yeah, and she's sort of been in that mode where she's like, she is a powerful woman, but the times don't let her use that in any way. There's nothing she can do. There's no protest she can make. Just because her husband did something wrong, she's punished because that's the way society is set up.
And let's get into how she's punished, because I really liked when she went up to Hewlett about the Dunmore Proclamation, which is something where they're going to free all of her slaves. And it's only slaves of people who are patriots. So I thought that was kind of interesting, because at first when I was watching it, you kind of don't like Anna, because she's like, well, you can't take my slaves. And Hewlett's like, slavery is a sin. Except then the whole thing is interesting because he, you know, at first you're like, well, you know, I kind of agree with Hewlett. Like, it is a sin. They should be let free. And he's just bringing them into a different kind of slavery, and one that's far more dangerous than anything Anna has in mind at her place.
It's closer to like an indentured servitude at that point, where they have to like work towards their freedom. Now they're being forced to do all this stuff. None of it's voluntary, obviously. But
yeah, it's basically, and I don't even think Abigail can work towards her freedom. It didn't sound like how did she?
No, I don't think I think
she was just sold to John Andre.
Yeah,
so.
which is the hypocrisy at work here, and it shows that like even the people arguing for the things that are good are not always good themselves, and do plenty of bad with good. The good motives of freeing slaves are then used and twisted for bad.
Yeah, and they just got more soldiers that way. So it almost gives like the slaves a glimmer of hope. So they're hoping that, you know, these guys go in there and then they're like, okay, well, I'm going to fight hard for the British because they want to free me. But not really.
Yeah.
Now you're not almost in a worse situation, because slavery's bad either way. But at least with Anna at the helm of things, it's
And that's the struggle with
better, I
her,
guess.
is that, well, she's a good person. She doesn't mistreat people, but she still owns slaves.
Yeah.
It's the struggle of this era of time. It's like this is the world she knows. This is the world she exists in. And I think she knows that keeping Abigail on as her slave is wrong, but she doesn't know what she'd do without her.
Yeah. And obviously Abigail and her like each other. And although she was really excited, Abigail, because we saw when her son ran, and he can read as well as Abigail, ran and saw that the proclamation that was on the door, Abigail was really excited, like, I finally get my freedom. So, I mean, I think she definitely still would have worked for Anna.
Yeah.
Just for a wage.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
Just as a regular.
It doesn't matter how well you like your slave
Yeah,
master.
exactly. You're still a slave. It's kind of a weird thing to even talk about, because it's like, well, she's nice, but you're a slave, and
yeah, being nice to your slaves is not good enough.
no, definitely not. It was so it's definitely a touchy subject.
Yeah.
Like, how do you work around that? Yeah, but
I think the show handled it really well. It showed us different sides of it. Everybody involved, that they didn't treat the slaves like just property to be thrown around. They gave them characters. They gave them deep backstories. We got I only know because of IMDb the male slave named Jordan. Yeah. we got there's a love thing going on there, because these are people that are suddenly being separated. Granted, they're being like working towards their freedom or whatever, but they're still being like pulled away from the people who they live with, that they know, that they love.
Well, I don't know if Jordan so much as loves Abigail, because he was getting a little handsy.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
But he obviously cared for her in some weird way. Yeah, I don't know.
It didn't seem bad. Like he didn't seem violent.
No, that was good at least. But just kind of his comment, like, you know, well, I'll keep your secret if you treat me right. I don't blame Abigail for just being like, all I need is my son. Get out of my face. Yeah. And it was really great that she even taught her son to read. And, you know, they definitely had such a great bond and, you know, it's going to be good to see Anna kind of take care of him.
Yeah, I'm curious so he wasn't given away? That confused me a little bit.
He was given to another family, but Anna, once Abigail was going off to John Andre and said, what'd she say? I'll do your laundry.
Yeah.
Protect my boy in Setauket, and I'll do your laundry in New York. And I think then Anna maybe struck a deal, because we did see them at the end together.
Yeah. That was what threw me off, because we didn't see the deal or anything, and since everyone had been taken away from her, I guess she bought him back. I'm
assuming that's what happened. That would be the only thing that makes sense, right? I mean, she's not going to go
that, or
and just
she
visit
bargains
him.
for like, can I get one?
Yeah,
which is still really uncomfortable
take
and
one
weird.
Of your slaves back. I'll give you free drinks at the tavern.
Oh God.
Like, I don't know. I'm not sure how that all worked. But yeah, so we see that, she somehow managed to get him back, and she's going to keep an eye on him so that, Abigail, when she works for John Andre, can keep them all posted, which
it's going to be big payoffs later on down the road, I imagine.
Huge. I mean, she's gonna find out about Lee and about Philomena and everything. I mean, John Andre is a huge guy in the British military, and it's just going to open a lot of doors if they're able to get this.
I mean, she has a spy, and he's the head of intelligence, right? So they have a spy inside the house of the head of intelligence.
And they don't know she can read.
Yes.
She's been keeping that super secret, so I mean, imagine the amount of letters that she can get, and she's cleaning in there. And I really like where this is going with it, and I like, how quickly we felt connected to Abigail.
The pieces are moving into position.
Exactly. And I want to talk really fast. Roya actually has something for us to listen to in the booth.
Yeah, guys, I do. It's that time where we listen to a promo from American Express. Enjoy.
My name is Yvonne Saravia, and I am a home health aide. My credit score was very high. It was like 700 something. Then I had like a hiccup in my finances. Everything just crashed. But I don't crawl under a rock and cry. It takes baby steps to get back. So that's what I am doing.
With American Express Serve, you have a full-service prepaid account that helps you handle your money simply and affordably. There's no credit check. You can pay your bills online and reload cash for free at over 15,000 locations, all for $1 a month, and all backed by the 24/7 service of American Express. This is what membership is. This is what membership does.
Now there is no purchase fee when you get an American Express Serve card at CVS Pharmacy or Family Dollar. Offer ends June 28th. Terms and restrictions apply. Go to serve.com for more details.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Roya. Yeah, definitely American Express. We've used that at work. So, so going back to Anna, so we kind of wrapped up her with Abigail, but we touched a little bit on the affair with Abe and how...
Very intense moment.
I was really hiding behind my notebook. I didn't want that to happen.
But you knew that like beautiful shot with their silhouettes with the fire. Just like, well, they're gonna make out here.
They're at least, when we saw in the previews that he's trying to kiss her, and I was hoping that there was a different reason behind that than just them going at it. She's bringing over silverware, just like, here, I decided to do this in the middle of the night randomly, and I thought it was interesting to see Abe a little bit before that, just completely drunk, shooting off his gun and just, wasting alcohol.
Yeah, well, he doesn't know all the success that his
letter just had.
Yeah, his work has done enormous things, but he has no idea yet.
Yeah.
So I think once word travels back, then he'll be like on top of the world, except for this whole affair thing. But he's just trying to forget, because essentially his wife temporarily left him.
Well, and I think that was a huge moment for him, mostly I think because of his son. He is so attached to Thomas.
Yeah.
I think if Mary just would have left on her own, I think we'd see a whole different Abe. But the fact that he knew that his son had to go there, and he was definitely having a moment of pride, because him and Richard haven't really been the same since, when we saw the last episode with the gravestones being taken out.
He feels betrayed. Like he thought his father was going to do one thing that he saw as good, that he saw as just, and then his father just buckled to the British.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I wasn't here last week, but I know they had talked. They had talked about how they had reconciled, and I was like, I don't think they did, because we saw how angry Abe was standing on the side because his dad listened to him, but took it in a different direction, because he said either you rebel or you submit. And he submitted.
He submitted
so
hard.
Yeah.
But I think they sort of, it's a forced reconcile at the end after he gets caught, which I know it's television, so you have to move a little fast, but like these people aren't going anywhere. Like, and he just within 30 seconds of kissing her, he's like, I'm gonna drop my pants and go for it. No hesitation.
No, it didn't. I think that's alcohol. Just knocked out any thought. I have to also think that he's not a big drinker, so he probably just had like a sniff of the alcohol and was hammered. I mean, that's what I do. But I think that's kind of what got him. And for her, she's obvious, and they've always, there's always tension.
Yeah. This has been a 20-year sexual tension buildup.
Well, and they've been alone in that barn, and at night, when he's been giving her secrets and all that kind of stuff. And
it is more difficult in 1777 to just go at it, because there's a lot of things that you have to undo.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the good thing, at least. I mean, even though they can't be safe in the way we can now with pills or condoms or anything like that.
They're safe in that they're more likely to get caught by a random British soldier
because by the
walking
time it takes to take off all those petticoats underneath there, is it General Baker? The British officer? I'm not sure. Baker walks in on them, and I thought that was definitely a surprising moment, because I did not think that was going to happen.
I thought it was going to be his wife walking in, coming back to get something.
Yeah, left something for the baby. Or Richard being like, I'm sorry, I saw your wife was here. Like, I definitely would have thought it would have been somebody else, but it was interesting.
I mean,
the British
I'd
officer.
forgotten for a moment that they were
there.
quartering a soldier in their place, and that he's like, what are you doing here? Oh, I live here. You have sinned.
Well, and I actually always thought, and this is going to be maybe a prediction, but I always thought that Baker and Mary, we've seen them interact a little bit, and I always thought there was a little bit of a flirtation between the two of them.
Interesting.
I don't know if you got, she always seems, because Baker's there, I think she was feeling a connection, and he actually seems like a great guy. I mean, he goes to Abe after he catches them together. He's like, you guys, your kind of family are the ones that inspired me to come over here in the first place, and I was really happy to be with you because I'm protecting good people like you, and then I see this, and you need to go back to your wife and kid.
I think don't let go of that prediction then, because he's a good person, Mary's a good person, and the fact that Abe betrayed her, I think he's going to be like, I'm better than Abe. I can protect you and your son better. And
I think so too.
As soon as if he either suspects Abe or just is if they go at it again, he's just going to be done with it and go for it with Mary.
I feel like at some point Baker will say something to Mary to try to
inevitably.
To coax her. Yeah.
Although she's cool with it.
Yeah, that was an awkward conversation a couple episodes ago where she did tell Anna, if you were, although now she's going to think Anna's lying to her.
That's true. Although they broke her one rule, which is don't let anybody else know about it.
Yeah.
So
so
nobody
they
thinks
weren't
lowly
very
of me.
secretive. Yeah.
Yeah, they literally 30 seconds into the whole thing screwed it up.
She's going to find out. I'd be really interested to see what happens with that. I tend to think she'll go after Anna more than anything, and just, which is funny because it's her husband, the one doing it. But I have a feeling she'll go after Anna. Why did you go after my husband? Why did you lie to me?
Yeah.
I feel like we see that usually happen where she won't go after Abe because it's her husband. She's going to go after this other girl. And it's he started it.
Yeah, it's going to become
she
a bigger...
finished it, but...
it's going to become a bigger problem than it seems right now.
Yeah. No, definitely. So I think that's it for Abe and Anna's stuff, mostly. Let's move on to one of my favorites, Robert Rogers, and one of Megan's favorite, John Andre, and their little meeting. It's good to have him back. I think he's a very fun character, and he's not of the norm in this group because we learn a little bit about his past when he first goes into John Andre's house.
Mm-hmm.
And that they know each other. Well, we've seen that they know each other before, but John Andre is basically telling him, or he knows that somebody's captive there. Rogers wants to interrogate this guy because he'll know who the guy is who took on his men and was there at the Connecticut safe house where he left the hat for him to find. Kind of like, hey, this is me. Remember me? You almost tried to kill me earlier on.
This is why you don't mark your crime scenes. It's always going to come back and bite you in the ass.
Oh, definitely.
This guy has moved heaven and earth to just find out who he is.
You don't want to piss off a guy where the first time you see him is he's taking a piss, like in the whole series. So he's talking about trying to find him, and John Anderson's like, don't worry about it. This guy is going to get the British to win. And then what are you going to do after the war? And I thought it was a really good moment for the actor who portrays Robert Rogers, because you can just see he was actually nervous because he has debts, I guess, to go back to and not really a good life. And right now, he's kind of at the top of his game being in the middle of this war. I mean, he's been, he gets well paid. He's got a good title.
He can go wherever he chooses. People have to show him respect because of his level in the Queen's Rangers. There's nothing, nowhere for him to go but down.
Exactly.
From where he is right now.
So I'm sure he doesn't want it to end, especially where he's not the one on top. Because if it's all of John Andre's doing with whoever he has captured, Rogers is just going to get left in the dust.
Yeah. Do you think he could switch sides at some point?
I wouldn't put it past him.
He seems like a smart enough man. He doesn't seem like he uses the phrases about being loyal to the crown and everything, but I feel like the instant it's inconvenient for him, he's gone.
Yeah, he is way more loyal to himself, and that's what kind of makes him a fun character, because we even saw that when, I think his name was John, the guy that actually killed Captain Joyce, how he let him survive to be kind of a spy for him. We haven't really seen how that has all turned out yet, but the fact that he let him live is not something any of those, like John Andre or Hewlett or any of them, I don't think they have a code being a part of that particular military that Robert Rogers doesn't have. So he's definitely working for himself.
He's from the underbelly. Like, he doesn't mind. It's sort of like the thing that we're taught about this American Revolution strategy, the military strategy involved, is that the British were very much open. Like, everything has to be by the books. And a lot of people on the American side are just like, no, we're going to hide in the trees if we got to hide in the trees. Like, that's how you win a war. You use strategy. And it doesn't matter how dirty it feels. Like, he's like, I need a spy here. I have control over this person. This is how I'm going to win. Well,
and it's definitely, you bring a good point with that, is that, they've talked about the rebels are fighting for their homes. And all the British army out there is just trying to keep, their colonies. But it's not, it would be different if, like, the Americans were fighting them, I think, over in England, is because then it's personal, and people who fight personal fight dirtier, I feel like.
Right.
They lose their code because it's so close to home. And I think with Robert Rogers, the reason he is kind of a force, at least to be reckoned with, is even though it's not his home, he's fighting for himself. So for him, it's also personal. And for John Andres and Hewlett and all that kind of stuff, it's not personal to them. Their stuff is over there, and they don't really have to worry about it. And I mean, they're not really fighting for their honor as much. I don't feel like they're fighting for a king.
Right.
So I think it's definitely a little bit different. But it was really great. So he left. We see John Andres, doing his up to his good old tricks. And we see Philomena is still in the house.
Yep.
But she's playing this different role. It was, she's so many names.
It's either Iris to some people, or Philomena, or there's another. They used another one in this one.
And IMDb, it just says actress, which doesn't really help us out very much. But we see her with Lee, and they're having dinner, and Well, John Andres gets called, to go help with Cornwallis and that whole group over in Trenton. So he's gone, and we'll get to that next. So Rogers kind of sneaks his way back into the house and wants to find out who was captured here. And he gets up there and he sees Lee having dinner with Philomena, and they know each other.
Yep. And he doesn't waste any time, like, just worming his way in.
No.
And, like, he knows the best way to get in is to just, like, make the guy feel comfortable and then get him a little drunk. The best interrogation technique of all.
Drunk or with women. Like, these guys are going to crack, like, immediately.
Hey, they can't all drink all the time.
Yeah,
It's not just available down at the 7-Eleven like it is today.
There's no Marco Polo this episode. So.
But it was great. Like, I loved his speech about Washington, because that's the whole famous thing about Washington, is that he was supposedly a terrible strategist, but he managed to win through other means, which is I think that what this whole show is like how a war gets won by the underdogs.
Yeah, exactly. And they have a history, and he kind of coaxes, we'll say, Lee into giving up his sword, or who was the man that left, and you find out that Lee gives it up, which I couldn't believe, but I could believe. I mean, apparently Lee can't keep his mouth shut at all. I did like how he coaxed him into saying that was kind of making him feel bad about the fact that he sold all of his men just for, like, what was it, 30 pounds of silver.
Yeah,
like,
well, he's basically he's just calling him a Judas.
Yeah.
With no subtlety at all.
No.
It's just like you have betrayed the people who trusted you. And I think that's sort of why I think he might switch sides. Like, he doesn't seem to care about that he was loyal to the crown or anything. He was just like, you're not a good person.
Yeah.
People trusted you, whichever side they're on, and you betrayed them.
Yep. And then you continue to betray them. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do it, you're going to at least help me out, because I'm true to my guys, and you need to tell me who it is. So he says, Ben Talmadge. Ooh. We're all just like, oh, man, this is going to...
Now he's coming for you.
Exactly. I want to really quick get to, because we'll definitely get into Ben and Caleb and Washington, finally.
Yes.
I want to shout out to everybody, all the listeners on iTunes, YouTube, however you get this. Thank you so much for tuning in. We all do this for free, and we love hearing your opinions. And, if you like the podcast, please let us know if there's any improvements as well. We like listening to those. If you slap us with a 5-star rating on iTunes, we really appreciate it. Lets our bosses know we're doing a good job, and that we keep doing shows for you guys, because we're fans of these shows as well. We like doing that, and also helps us get guests, which we actually will have a guest call in next week.
Awesome.
We have Samuel Roken, who plays Simcoe, calling in. We haven't seen him in the last 2 episodes, and we were said to wait until the next one because he'll appear again. So I was very excited.
Okay.
It's been great.
I don't know how much longer he's going to stay alive, but...
I don't know. I feel like maybe a little, but I think he's going to cause some trouble for Anna. Like, I have a feeling coming up. But yeah, definitely, shout outs to everybody who's commented on YouTube and iTunes. We don't get as many for YouTube for this one. I think it's a quieter crowd. Another way you can support is by watching Chasing Maria with our co-founders, Maria Menudos and Kevin Undergaro, which is on Oxygen every Tuesday night. But I'll quickly do shout-outs to the iTunes reviews from since last week. And one of them was, good show, great podcast from Rosemary42. I'm really enjoying Turn and can't wait to hear the podcast after each episode. The panel is great and the puns are fun too. Keep up the great work. We haven't done puns this
I didn't know I had to prepare puns.
Usually Dylan likes the turn puns a lot. Major Chance is big on the turn puns.
You don't say.
Well, I'm a little nervous being head host, so I'm trying to more keep this ship afloat, than anything.
If I'd only known.
But now you can increase the turn puns.
The fun that I would have had with puns.
Exactly. We also had 5-star slap. Also gave us 5 stars. Jason34456. You've been slapped. Love the show, the puns, and hosts. Would love some current events about the cast like they do in the Americans AfterBuzz podcast. You guys are doing a great job. definitely have to get to that. I feel always like we talk about the show so much because there's so much going on. So we'll definitely keep that up in the past. YouTube, Joseph Boza, great show this week. It keeps getting better and better each week. I think Abe is trying to be like a Robin Hood style of a person who will stand up for the good people and not to the British and his father's dirty work. Do the British and his father's dirty work. There's a lot more to that, but I'll say that later. And then VSB, so too. I highly doubt Abe will even begin to forgive his father anytime soon. I predict next episode he's going to flip his thesis to the point he begins making so very irrational decisions, like kissing Anna. And she was correct.
Yep.
You
gotta be rational with these things.
He should lay off the booze. Or have it more often. That was interesting. I love this after show, by the way. I believe the show does not get nearly enough recognition. Also, could you answer who you might think will die during the show's runtime next week? I would really appreciate it. Who do you think's going to die, Zach?
Who's going to die?
I mean, we saw some British soldiers die and a couple of rebels, but nobody of consequence yet.
I mean, we haven't seen anyone of consequence die in a while. It's not the kind of show where they're just killing people off.
This isn't Game of Thrones or Walking Dead so far, so.
And I feel like Ben Talmadge doesn't die.
I was watching a show on the American Revolution today, and they mentioned his name a little bit later on in the show because I didn't catch the earlier bit, and I was like, "Oh, Ben Talmadge." I'm like, "Oh, well, does that mean he lives longer?" I don't know. It's a show they could always still kill him.
Because a lot of these people are real. I think most of them are, right?
Most of them are
real people. So they can't just die at any time. They have to be like die at a specific time. And
they'd almost have to, invent somebody and then, have it work that way. And I'm not sure who's been invented yet. I have to really look into all this.
Other than like this, well, even the smaller people are based on they pick names and locations out of real people, I believe.
Yeah.
Even the Woodhulls are a real.
Yeah. No, Abe Woodhull and his dad was Richard and was a loyalist, and he became a spy. And again, they take little liberties because otherwise it's not as exciting. I mean, who knows if he actually did have an affair with Anna? I mean, we're not entirely sure of all of that.
Oh, well, I just said a few minutes ago, I think Simcoe's going to die.
You think Simcoe's going to die?
Yeah, I don't think he's long for this earth.
I think he'll be around a little while longer. I almost feel like I like Robert Rogers, but I almost feel like now that he knows that Ben's involved, I don't think they'd kill off Ben. But if he knows that Ben's the guy,
he might be
the one to die just based off of the fact that I don't think they're gonna be like buddies.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
He could get killed trying.
If I had to pick, yeah, exactly. He's gonna end up being his own worst enemy or something like that.
Makes sense.
And speaking of Ben and Caleb, so they get told they're going on a secret mission in the middle of the night, and Caleb has no idea. He's just following Ben. Ben asked him what his orders were, and it was, "Hey, dude, I'm just supposed to follow you." So, because he said "dude," for sure. And
it's totally how people talk.
I know, right? It's like I'm from 1777. So they start going. They're crossing the Delaware. It's the big, George Washington portrait that's famous. So we finally get to that point where we're like, oh, are we going to meet Washington coming up? And so they cross, but Ben falls into the water and gets sick.
As you do.
Well, when there's ice floating in the water, I mean, can we assume he had hypothermia?
Yeah, well, because a gun fell in. Mm-hmm. One of the I think the mini cannons or whatever it was called fell into the water, and he's like, we need that, and he dove in. And as we found out from the guys later, is they really did need it. And they were like, it was totally worth your pneumonia.
For 3 days. Because it was...
more. It was
more
like
than
a
that,
week.
yeah. Well, because they started it on Christmas.
They sailed on Christmas night.
So we don't know how long it was, but all of a sudden he wakes up and it's January 2nd.
Yeah, so that's...
But I thought Caleb said that he was out for 3 days. I'm not sure.
Maybe... I think it was.
Maybe it took him a little while to sail across. No, I'm just kidding. So he's out for possibly a week, and Caleb has taken care of him, which is really great. Yeah. But all the guys are gone.
Yeah, he wakes up. We were with that big army.
Yeah.
What happened?
Where did they go? Why are we just here? And, so they're all gone. Then they go to meet up with them, and they do the password, which is victory, and the answer or death. Give me victory, give me death. So then they come in there, and they find out that, they've taken the German group in Trenton.
Yeah, which now we're seeing it all pay off. Like, I mean, if you didn't know the history before, this is it all coming to pass. Like, all the work is like getting them to Trenton, the famous Washington crossing the Delaware, which was cool to see. Like, we didn't see like the actual image, but we saw Ben like with his knee up, like on the thing, like in that George Washington
impersonating
pose.
it. They're like, we don't want to give away Washington yet.
But we want to give you that like crossing the Delaware moment.
Exactly. So that was pretty cool, and I liked, because again, they're using green screens for most of this, but I thought like this one was really well done, and I really felt like they were all there, and the smoke and all that.
Yeah.
kind
Well,
of
from a
stuff,
technical
like the fog.
standpoint, having the fog.
That helps.
Blocking everything, it makes it a little. You
makes
just
it a
feel
little
that
easier.
studio or the little like when they film these things, a lot of times it's actually blue screen, and they although with all the blue in the costumes, maybe not.
I think it's green screen for this. I was watching it behind the scenes.
Yeah, and they have like a little circular tank that they'll
just
home,
do like one boat.
Yeah, or like a couple, because they're enormous tanks, but the bottoms are painted green, and they just throw up green around it, and it lets them throw in fog or whatever, and then just have fun and go at it.
Exactly. No, and I liked that effect really well. And so they're kind of, Ben's story that they're the decoys, because John Andre and his group, they're across the area, and they haven't made their move, because they like to be in order and go during the daytime and all that kind of stuff. So they haven't made their move yet, and just kind of listening to the rowdiness. So by the time they get there the next morning, nobody's there.
Which they're like, oh, we missed it.
We missed the fight. Come on, guys. Yeah, John Unraised isn't going to be very happy. So then we see right after that whole scene, the ponytail of Washington.
Yes, I'm just like, I recognize that ponytail. I know it anywhere.
And we see Ben Talmadge in the corner of the room, and I liked how it was right after Robert Rogers got the name of Ben Talmadge, and then it goes to him. And that's another reason I think Ben's safe, because he's sitting in the room with George Washington. And then all of a sudden we see him sit down, and you get a glimpse of him, and he goes, "Who is Abe Woodhull?" And it cuts the black.
And you just, but it comes around, like they don't show his face, and you're like, oh, what's gonna happen? And then they bring it around, and it's like that, like just a slight upward angle, and you're like, America.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think I actually did that. I'm like, President, sir. Like I feel like I need to bow or something.
It was that most like, it's just like, this is the person. And I mean, we're gonna get to know him a little bit more, but it's Ian Kahn is the guy playing him, and he looks like could be powerful Washington.
Exactly. They actually had an interview with him asking how it was, and he goes, "It's funny because you have this huge image of Washington." So he said it was kind of difficult to get into that role, especially, but it in the show like this with such a great cast. He said it was very cool, and we'll definitely be seeing him in more scenes. I mean, as we saw with the preview next week, that he's in it, and then even in the interview, he said he's working with more people. One of my favorite actor, Stephen Root, is supposed to be.
Steve Root's gonna be on it?
I was reading, he's playing this character called Nathaniel, and he's supposed to be in scenes with Washington. So awesome. They haven't like released too much info about that, but I've loved him since News Radio. Yeah. So the fact that he'll be on the show as well.
He's a fantastic actor, very versatile.
He does True Blood, Boardwalk Empire, I mean, just Dodgeball. I mean, just like everything. That man can play anything. So very excited to see what role he is when he comes on as well. But definitely to get Washington. I can't believe like our crew missed this episode. It was so exciting.
It was a great episode, and thanks for having me in for this one. It was fun.
So excited. I mean, you wanted El Capitan. Like, thank you. Let's get into predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Well, I guess I said a few earlier. I think Mary's going to know. Mary's going to find out about the affair.
I think that's a safe bet. Eventually. I don't know how long it'll take, but...
I feel like something's going to be told the next episode. I don't think they can hold it out too long. Now, whether or not it's to Mary, but somebody's going to find out. And I also think her and Baker had a little something.
Baker's got a situation in the oven, and it's going to pop soon enough.
Yeah,
I had to get at least one in. Like I said, I think Simcoe's either he's going to die or get traded back. Mm-hmm. But he's not going to... But I don't think he's going to stay captive for too much longer.
Turn?
I don't think so. I think he seems pretty loyal to the Brits. And he's also just...
He's just crazy.
He's just a dick. They're like, oh, he's like, I want to join. No. Blast him.
Well, Samuel Roken is really nice. Hopefully,
I'm sorry.
We have him on the show.
I like he's a great actor, but his character's a dick.
His character is creepy. I love that he's creepy. But he definitely creeps me out the whole time. But I'm excited to see him back.
I do think this is not the end of Abe and Anna's affair, though.
Oh, I hope so. But I tend to think you're right, though. All right, thank you so much, Zach. Where can the people find you?
You can find me, Le Capitan Wilson, on Twitter and Instagram, and on YouTube at That Zach Wilson, ThatWilson, and also here at AfterBuzz on Grimm. And the Resurrection finale is tonight. With we're gonna have a guest call in from Mark Hildreth, aka Pastor Tom. So tune in for that.
And you can find me, Kristin Carole, on Twitter, Kristin Carole 13, and I also do the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast. So thanks you guys so much, and we'll see you next week for Turn. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.